purpose of legal entity? Why we are defining the legal entity? So every company will register under, Minister of Corporate Affairs. So there, as per the legal reporting requirement, they will issue the legal certificate so that the company can, start their business as per the memorandum of association. They have agreed what are the business they want to start. Okay, and they will do some legal reporting related transactions and all for taxes purpose. So, and end of the year we are, generating the financial statements. All these purposes we will, register the company as a LE. Okay. So usually client will give this data, legal entity, legal address. Okay. So to define the legal entity, we should have a legal address first. Okay. First we have to define the legal address. Then only we can define the legal entity. So I mentioned it as a prerequisite setup. So to define the legal entity, what setup we need first? So we should have a legal address. I mean to say the company where it is having the operations. Okay, so that address first we need to define in the system, then we can define the legal entity. So this information will be taken from the client. So how many legal entities they're having? I mean, if they're having multiple operations, like you see the ATC company is having a multiple operations in the US, India, and Germany. So I should have a 3 legal entities. So one legal entity from USA, another legal entity from India, and Germany is having another separate legal entities. So I should define the three separate legal entities. Okay, by defining the USA legal address and India legal address and Germany legal address. And again, I need to define the legal entity after defining the legal address. Sometimes India might have multiple multiple legal entities. They want to create, I mean, they might register, it depends on the, state wise they're having operations. So it depends on the client requirement, how they have registered the legal entities. Okay. And next one is ledger. As I explained, all the transactions from the subledger or general ledger, we are reporting at ledger level. Okay. So ledgers means we have a primary ledger, secondary ledger, the reporting ledger. So we have a 3 types of ledger. Depends on the client requirement. We will define the secondary and reporting ledgers. So primary ledger will be must have to define for every client. We should have a primary ledger. Okay. So how to define the primary ledger? So I have explained in the last classes about 4 C's. So currency, calendar, chart of accounts, and accounting method. So before defining the ledger, we should have these 4 C's defined in the system as a prerequisite setup. Okay. If we have a forces defined in the system, then only we can define a ledger. So all these forces are going to assign to the ledger. Okay. So if you see my example, the ATC having operations in 3 countries, USA, India, and Germany. Okay, I will define a 3 primary ledgers. Why? Because I have a separate operations in a different countries. So I should maintain the 3 separate ledgers to enter my day-to-day transactions from the subledgers to GL and GL also directly if any transactions created in the GL. Okay. So here we have a secondary ledger concept. So what is the purpose of defining the secondary ledger? So my client want to, use a different accounting method as per the country requirement. Okay. As per the country requirement. So I have to define the secondary ledger. So if client want to define secondary ledger, in which cases, like if he want to use different forces, like if you want to use a different accounting method, that is one of the scenario. If you want to use different chart of accounts, or if you want to use different currency or calendar also. If any of the forces you want to change, okay, in the primary ledger setup we are using these forces, but in the secondary ledger, if we want to use different forces, so usually forces, out of forces, accounting method only will differ most of the cases, or you know the COA also. It's a big, if it is a big client, big enterprise structure, if you want to maintain different COA for the different, countries operations they are doing, so they will have a separate COAs. So if any of the forces will change, then it will go to secondary ledger creation. Okay, so in our example, they are using a different accounting method from primary ledger to secondary ledger. Okay, like in USA, they will follow always gap accounting policies. Okay, so for that purpose, they want to create a secondary ledger since the other countries are following IFRS, Indian Financial Reporting Standards, as an accounting method. So I'll define three primary ledgers for three locations. Okay, as a US IFRS primary ledger, India IFRS primary ledger, and Germany IFRS primary ledger. And for secondary ledger, I follow the gap accounting method to define the secondary ledger, like US GAAP accounting method, India